So, really common question slash problem that arises is how to work two dogs, especially if you have two dogs in your home and you're trying to train just one of them. It gets a little bit tedious if you always have to put the second dog away in a kennel or in another room. And there are some easy strategies that you can put in place that'll help the dogs learn how to sort of wait their turn for training. And so what we're doing here is we're using our tie-outs that we have on the wall. If you're at home, you could easily tie a leash off to a doorknob. I do have some clients that actually put little anchors in their baseboards, little hooks that they can attach a leash to. And we have our place boards nearby. That could be a dog bed. And so ideally you've started some sort of a place command with your dog prior to doing this. So what we're gonna do, and this is the first time doing this for both of these two dogs. This guy's very new to training. He really just got here, so his obedience is only in the very early stages. This guy's been here a little bit longer. He's deaf, so we're using a remote collar on him as well to help grab his attention. So what we do is this. We have a back tie that I like, personally, I have it attached to a slip lead that he's wearing. And this back tie has a carabiner, so it's really easy to unlatch this if I want to. So each dog has a back tie that's attached to their leash, so that when it's not their turn, if they do accidentally jump off of the place and try to follow us out to the training area, they can't. They can't really make that big of a mistake. We're not super concerned, especially with a guy at this stage of training, with correcting him if he makes a mistake. I really just want him learning the pattern of what's going on and starting to set the tone for our exercise. So what's going to happen is they're both currently back tied. Whichever dog we choose to start with first, we're just going to very quickly and casually unlatch that back tie and then bring them out into the training area. We can start with just walking them with us. I do have a long line on him because he's also dog aggressive, so if we try to, for instance, step back and recall him towards us, I just want to make sure I can prevent him from going over to this guy. So the long line's for safety with him due to his aggression history. And so now we can call him out, do some training with him. This guy has to stay there. If he makes a mistake, no big deal. He can't get to us, so he can't come and interfere with this guy at all. I can take my time casually getting him back to place, reinforce him for staying there, and just start to build these patterns. It is helpful if you have a third sort of anchor somewhere in the room. So for instance, if I'm training him and this guy jumps off of his placemat, that I can actually anchor him somewhere really quickly. I, of course, could do it right back here while I'm fixing him and then reinforcing him for being back on place. So what it would look like is, I'll start with this guy. So he's going to stay back tied. I'm going to just really casually, I don't want to make a big deal out of it, just undo this. That's why I like the carabiner. It's super easy. And I've got his long line on. And so now I'm going to call him out to work with me. Ramen, come. Good boy. Good job, buddy. Ramen, down. Yes. Good. Break. Good boy. I don't always reward on break, but especially because there's a dog there and I want to make sure that when I break him, he stays with me and engaged with me, I'm going to be rewarding on the break here. Come. Yes. Good boy. Good job. Good boy. So I could do whatever I want to with him over here, and then whenever I'm ready, bring him back over, place. You can see he's quite enthusiastic about training, which we love to see. Link him back up. Now, again, he's super new, so he's not great at holding a place command, but no big deal. That's why I have my back tie. So now he can stay there, and Sammy, why don't you go unhook him, and Sammy can do whatever she wants to with Jax over there. And if this guy makes a mistake, no big deal. So obviously right now there's two of us. This is really easy to do, but a lot of times you're going to be trying to do this by yourself. You don't have a second set of hands, and that's where the back ties come in super handy. So I'm going to pretend that I'm not here. Notice Sammy's doing all hand signals with Jax because he's deaf. And what she can also do, especially because Jax has pretty decent obedience, so she could leave him in a down and actually come over and reward Ramen for staying on his place. So he learns that while Jax is working, it actually pays for him to stay there And he can't get any reinforcement for jumping off because the leash is preventing that from happening. So again, we're not worried about correcting the mistake. He's just going to learn that the only way to get reinforcement is to actually stay there and wait his turn. Again, if Jax were not as far along in his training, Sammy could still do the same thing by just quickly returning, back tying him so that she can reward him without Jax following her over if his stay is not where it needs to be yet. So by utilizing back ties, it makes it really easy to start patterning dogs so that you can work 2 dogs in the same room without having to really get frustrated or stressed about it at all. So whenever you're ready, Sammy, go ahead and put him back, hook him back up to the back tie. You don't want to go too long in the beginning because especially a new dog like this, he can get frustrated after a while. So a short little session with Jax, he gets back tied and then it's his turn again. So he's just learning that his turn will come soon enough that it makes sense to be patient. Good boy, buddy. Good job. So he doesn't even need to pay much attention to me unhooking him. Me unhooking him does not mean he's free. Ramen, come. So it's really great to see Jax, for instance, be able to stay put, especially with that enthusiastic recall. Ramen, come. Good boy. Down. Yes. Good job, buddy. Ramen, place. Good. Again, casually just hook him back up. You don't want to make a big deal out of it. There he is, and then Jax is going again. So even though he's deaf, Sammy, just for practice sake, because the average dog's not going to be, give a verbal recall as you do your hand signal to make sure that Ramen stays there.
Okay.
For it. So perfect example of how that mistake's going to happen. Again, no big deal. So now when you're done with him, we don't need to worry about this. You can put him in a down since he's trained. Again, if he weren't trained, we would just quickly back tie him again. Now you can go fix Ramen.
Okay. Please.
Beautiful. So his only reinforcement happens there. Now we're going to try it again. So bring Jax back over to his place. You don't have to back tie him up. Just place him there again. And you're going to practice that recall again. And we do it with repetition until Ramen realizes that he's not the one who's being spoken to right now. Now, the other thing that can make this easier, especially if you have 2 dogs in your home, is to use their name before the recall so that they know which one is being spoken to. And they'll actually learn, unless they hear their name first, not to come. So let's just demonstrate that one more time. This time use his name before the recall. And what I would also do after you, I would reinforce him as well, because he did a good job staying that time.
Yes, good job.
So this way he sees the contrast. Jumping off didn't lead to anything good. Staying did. If we don't reinforce him when he stays, what happens is he jumps off, we fix him, he gets reinforcement again. He learns the way to get more reinforcement is to jump off and then fix himself. So we don't want to fall into that trap. It's really important to acknowledge when he does well.
Jax, come.
Perfect.
Good job.
Good. And then bring him back, reinforce him.
Jax. You'll fall over. Yes.
So you can see it only took the one mistake for him to start to figure that out. It doesn't mean he's never going to make a mistake again, but the learning happens pretty quick. The back ties make it easy. It prevents you from having to stress or be frustrated. We're going to continue to work these guys, but I think you get the idea. Anybody who owns multiple dogs can do this at home, and it's really nice to get your dogs used to waiting their turn and not always feeling like they each have to be involved. I'm sure you guys know it's really difficult if you own multiple dogs to give just one of them a treat or just one of them affection, and this really helps them to learn that it's okay to wait their turn and there's plenty to go around.